Good afternoon. This is Geoff Stunkard of Zookeeper's Diary. Today we're going to look at a moment from the quarter mile. This series of photographs was taken during the NHRA Gatornationals back in 2015. It remains one of the most dramatic things I'd ever seen. When I first began shooting photographs, the motto on my business cards read, "If it moves, I'll shoot it." So we'll call this series, "It Moved, So I Shot It," and it will highlight photos of things that have happened in the past. During that time in the late 1980s, I was taking photographs of anything I could. I talked my way into Amtrak locomotives running 125 miles an hour, heavy equipment machine shops, other industrial locations, but drag racing was always my real passion. At the same time I was establishing that effort, Larry Dixon was beginning his life as part of the drag racing fraternity. After working with Larry Minor on the Gary Beck team, Dixon ended up with Don the Snake Prudhomme. Dixon received his Top Fuel license in 1994 and began driving for the Snake. He won the U.S. Nationals in 1995 and scored world championships in both 2002 and 2003, following that up with another world championship effort in 2010. But let's fast forward to Gainesville 2015. By this time, Dixon had been in two other serious crashes, one in Memphis and one in Bristol. This was the third round of qualifying on Saturday morning. And as usual, when I'm in Florida, I was hanging out with legendary drag racing photographer Steve Reyes, who lives in nearby Ocala. Those unfamiliar with Reyes should know that he's been shooting drag racing photography since the 1960s and became well known for his instant reaction crash photographs. We'll review his two self-published books in a future edition of the Have You Got Media series. On this day, it was not great for photography. It was a little overcast, and there had been some downtime already. A few moments earlier, I had turned to Reyes and said, "Well, pal, what could they possibly show us that we haven't seen before?" Well, this was the answer to that question. Here's Larry Dixon doing a burn-in. Now, by this time, Don Prudhomme had retired as a team owner, and this car is owned by Bob Vandergriff. In the other lane was Doug Kalitta. Now, I had slowed the shutter speed down a little bit to get a pan blur of Kalitta's car going by to show some speed in the image. Seconds later, as I swung the camera down track, Dixon's car took to the air and broke into pieces. As the nose broke away, you can see fuel pouring from the fuel tank as it flew through the air. As we watched, the debris from the car clicked the timers off at 3.83 seconds. Someplace right around 1,000 feet, the car had arched and then broke in two. I will admit these photos are a little out of focus because I had not had time to adjust the shutter speed upward after taking the Kalitta photo. It had happened so quickly. Meanwhile, the cockpit and the engine did not break apart, and Larry was simply along for the ride as the inertia carried it high above the racing surface before it crashed down hard past the finish line right alongside the guardrail.
We will wait until we hear from the professionals on scene.
At any rate, we were very glad to see Larry walk away from this wreck. There was little I could see from my location, and here are some photos taken from the Jumbotron moments after the incident happened. understand this failure, you have to realize how a Top Fuel chassis works. Think of a Top Fuel car as a bridge that flexes under load. The wings in the front and the back cause the entire chassis to arch as it continues to go down the racetrack. You see, each time a car goes down the racetrack, those forces are at work on that triangulated chassis at a molecular level. Now, those of you who know how to magnaflux a crank or cylinder heads to check for minute cracks can understand what can happen to metal under these kind of stresses. And again, you can appreciate, if that's happened over and over again with a Top Fuel chassis, why that minute crack under that one moment of time could actually break under those stresses. In hindsight, had that inertia carried the car over the top of the guardrail or even on top of it, this could have been a much more devastating accident for Larry Dixon. While researching this, I found a little video from Australia of Larry having another incident happen in 2017 without such dramatic results, but here it is.
Rapisada Autosports, have a look at that. The international brand is what is the most interesting part of that picture. Larry Dixon.
Best drivers in the world.
Oh my goodness gracious me! What an epic run that was. Dixon somehow pulls off a miraculous 360-degree spin.
That is a phenomenal drive job from Larry Dixon.
On board, my goodness. That is just a freakish incident. Look at the wheel careering down the racetrack.
Things I have seen in over 25 years of watching drag racing. Out of the car, safe as you like it, and just wondering, what the hell happened?
Incidentally, Larry became the fastest quarter-mile Top Fuel driver in the world with a 450 ET in 1,320 feet during those races in Australia. I don't know what NHRA's final analysis of this particular chassis was, but it did appear to be a total failure at one point, which under that force caused the car to instantly break in two. We were very happy to see Larry Dixon walk away from this crash. It turned out later he had some back injury as a result of it. But had he landed atop the guardrail, or had the chassis not sustained the blows it did without breaking the footbox apart, he could have had catastrophic leg injuries as a result of this accident. I only met Larry briefly on a couple of occasions, as my focus during this era was Mopar sportsmen and pro stock racing. So for me personally, I never knew a lot of the Top Fuel contingent. He would not even know me to say hi. And other than one photo published on Facebook years ago, this series of photographs remains unpublished until now. As motorsports photographers, we all love to see a fire or an incident, but nobody wants to see anyone ever get hurt. And it was great to see Larry Dixon walk away from this incident. So, it moved, so I shot it. This is Geoff Stunkard for Zookeeper's Diary. Thanks again for your time, and we'll be back.
At Gainesville in the third qualifying session at Auto Plus Raceway. We're talking about a car that was going close to 300 miles an hour down there, and impossible to tell from this angle exactly what went wrong, but the car got airborne, flying down the racetrack, and has come to a stop up against the concrete wall down there. And we will wait until we hear from the professionals on scene.